Across the sweep of Indian mythology and folklore, one creature slithers its way into temple carvings, village rituals, sacred texts, and whispered stories by the riverbanks: the Naga. The very word sparks a dual reaction: reverence and fear. Part human, part serpent, Nagas are among the most enduring figures in South Asian tradition, embodying both life-giving power and deadly danger. They can be protectors of wisdom, fertility, and water, yet they can also bring drought, disease, or death if disrespected. To begin any journey into their myth, we must first understand the atmosphere in which they arose, and why serpents became so deeply woven into the spiritual imagination of India. Serpents appear in nearly every culture on Earth. In Greek myth, Python guarded the oracle at Delphi. In Mesoamerican lore, Quetzalcoatl was the feathered serpent god of creation. In China, dragons embody wisdom and elemental control. The Naga fits into this wider archetype, but with uniquely Indian shades of meaning. India's geography, lush rivers, monsoon rains, and the ever-present threat of venomous cobras, made serpents both a literal and symbolic force in everyday life. People depended on water for crops and survival, and snakes, often found near rivers and wells, naturally became associated with both fertility and danger. In Hinduism's oldest texts, the Vedas, snakes are mentioned as enemies slain by gods like Indra. But it is in the epics and Puranas that Nagas truly come alive. They are described as semi-divine beings with human torsos and serpent tails, often adorned with jewels, crowns, and rich ornamentation. Some live in Patala, the subterranean realms filled with treasure. Others dwell in rivers, lakes, or seas, commanding the waters themselves. Among them, the great serpent Shesha holds a cosmic role. Lying in the endless ocean, he provides the couch upon which Vishnu rests, the universe itself supported upon his coils. The duality of Nagas emerges immediately. On the one hand, they are protectors, guardians of rivers, keepers of treasures, defenders of sacred spaces. On the other, they are quick to anger. Myths often warn that disrespecting or harming a serpent could bring curses of infertility, drought, or even sudden death by snakebite. This fear was not abstract. In India, venomous snakes claimed lives regularly. Thus, mythology provided a way of framing a natural threat within a moral universe. To honor the Naga was to protect oneself and one's community. To offend them was to court disaster. What makes the Naga so enduring is its ambiguity. They are not simply demons nor saints. They reflect life's precarious balance. Water nourishes crops, but can also flood villages. Snakes control pests, but can strike without warning. The Naga embodies this fragile line between danger and blessing. Even today, the reverence continues through rituals like Nag Panchami, a festival where serpents, both living and symbolic, are worshipped with offerings of milk and prayers for fertility and protection. The Naga's influence does not stop at India's borders. As Indian culture spread through trade and Buddhism, the image of the serpent being migrated too. In Cambodia, the seven-headed Naga arches over temple entrances at Angkor Wat. In Thailand and Laos, Nagas curl along the roofs of shrines and slither through river legends. The symbol evolved, but its roots remained the same: a deep respect for the mysterious, fluid, and powerful serpent. This introduction only scratches the scales of the Naga mythos. In the chapters ahead, we will dive deeper into the cosmic roles of serpents in Hindu epics, explore their Buddhist and Jain reimaginings, trace their art across South and Southeast Asia, and uncover the rich tapestry of local folktales where Nagas fall in love with humans or wreak vengeance upon those who defile their waters. As we unravel these tales, the Naga will reveal itself not just as a creature of myth, but as a symbol of humanity's timeless negotiation with nature, power, and the unknown. If the Naga is a river winding through Indian culture, its headwaters are found in the ancient scriptures of Hinduism. These texts, woven over centuries, present the Nagas not merely as snakes, but as semi-divine forces, shaping both the physical and cosmic order. By looking at their earliest appearances in the epics and Puranas, we begin to see how serpents came to embody such profound power in the Indian imagination. In the oldest layers of the Rig Veda, serpents appear as chaotic adversaries. The storm god Indra slays Vritra, the great serpent who hoarded the waters, releasing the rivers, and bringing fertility back to earth. At first glance, this paints the serpent as an enemy of life. Yet even in these early stories, we find a hint of duality. The serpent is both a hoarder and a guardian, one who can withhold blessings, or release them in abundance. This paradox will become the very essence of the Naga. Among the most revered Nagas is Ananta Shesha, whose name means endless remainder. He is depicted with 1,000 hoods, each crowned with glittering jewels. In cosmic imagery, Vishnu, the preserver of the universe, reclines upon Shesha's coils as he drifts on the ocean of eternity. When the universe dissolves at the end of an age, it is Shesha who remains, floating in timeless waters. This vision establishes the serpent as the eternal foundation. Dangerous, yes, but also indispensable. Without Shesha, even the gods would lack support. Another central figure is Vasuki, the Naga king whose role in the Samudra Manthan, the churning of the ocean of milk, cements the serpent's cosmic importance. When gods and demons sought the nectar of immortality, they wrapped Vasuki around Mount Mandara, using him as a churning rope. As the mountain spun, Vasuki exhaled venom, which threatened to consume the cosmos. Only Shiva's intervention, swallowing the poison and turning his throat blue, saved creation. Here the serpent is both essential and perilous. Without Vasuki, immortality could not be gained. Yet his very breath could destroy all life. Not all Nagas serve the cosmic order peacefully. In the Mahabharata, the serpent king Takshaka plays a dramatic role. When King Parikshit insults a sage, he is cursed to die from a snake bite. Takshaka fulfills the curse, killing the king despite every attempt at protection. In vengeance, Parikshit's son initiates a massive serpent sacrifice, intending to wipe out the entire Naga race. The myth captures a human truth. Serpents embody the unpredictability of fate. They may bless, they may curse, but they cannot be fully controlled. In Hindu cosmology, the Nagas dwell in Patala, the subterranean realms filled with dazzling palaces of jewels and gold. Far from being depicted as hellish, Patala is described as more beautiful than the heavens themselves. Yet this underworld is hidden, mysterious, and ruled by serpents. To enter it is to risk being overwhelmed by forces beyond human comprehension. Nagas here are keepers of treasure and wisdom, suggesting that the deepest riches of existence are guarded by danger and must be approached with reverence. It is no accident that Nagas became associated with fertility and water. In a land where monsoons determined life or famine, serpents embodied control over rain and rivers. Villages performed rituals to appease them, while stories warned of the disasters that followed neglect or disrespect. Snake worship became widespread, and through it the serpent transitioned from being a mere hazard of daily life to a spiritual intermediary, a being that could connect humans to cosmic forces of creation, destruction, and renewal. What emerges from these stories is not a simple dichotomy of good versus evil, but a recognition of the serpent's ambivalent power. Shesha supports creation, Vasuki enables immortality, Takshaka enacts fate, and the Nagas of Patala guard treasures. To the Hindu imagination, the serpent is a reminder that existence itself is ambivalent. Water gives life, but floods. Power sustains, but corrupts. Immortality tempts, but poisons. The Naga embodies this paradox, not as a flaw, but as a truth of the cosmos. While Hindu mythology establishes the Nagas as cosmic forces, guardians, tricksters, and agents of fate, their story does not end there. With the rise of Buddhism and Jainism in India, the Naga was not abandoned. Instead, it was reinterpreted, reshaped, and absorbed into new spiritual frameworks. In these traditions, the serpent is transformed from a figure of fear and cosmic ambiguity into one of protection, wisdom, and moral symbolism. One of the most tender and iconic stories of the Buddha's early life centers on a Naga named Mukalinda. After achieving enlightenment beneath the Bodhi tree, the Buddha remained in meditation, vulnerable to the elements. As the story goes, a great storm arose, with driving rain and fierce winds. From a nearby lake, Mukalinda, the Serpent King, emerged. Wrapping his coils beneath the Buddha and spreading his great multi-hooded cobra head above him, Mukalinda shielded the enlightened one from the storm. When the skies cleared, the Naga took on a human form, bowed to the Buddha, and returned to the waters. This story captures the Buddhist reimagining of the serpent. No longer just a creature to be feared, but a guardian of truth and compassion. In Buddhist cosmology, Nagas are classified as semi-divine beings, dwelling in subterranean or aquatic realms. They are not gods, yet they are not ordinary animals either. Instead, they exist in a liminal space, capable of devotion and spiritual progress, but also prone to anger, greed, and pride. Their duality mirrors the Buddhist view of existence. Beings cycle through realms of rebirth, carrying both virtues and vices, striving toward enlightenment. Nagas, therefore, are both protectors of the Dharma and reminders of the dangers of clinging to power or wrath. Another recurring motif is the Nagas as guardians of sacred treasures, especially the relics of the Buddha. In several traditions after the Buddha's passing into parinirvana, his relics were protected by Naga kings in jeweled palaces beneath rivers or seas. The image of serpents guarding the bones or ashes of the enlightened one reinforces their role as sacred custodians. For devotees, this elevated the Naga from a creature of fear to a spiritual ally, an unseen protector of the Dharma. In Jainism, too, serpents take on symbolic significance. While not as prominent as in Hindu or Buddhist traditions, serpents often appear in the lives of Jain Tirthankaras, enlightened teachers. The 23rd Tirthankara, Parshvanatha, is famously associated with a serpent. According to legend, a serpent named Dharanendra sheltered him with his hood during a violent storm, much like Mukalinda did for the Buddha. The parallels suggest a shared cultural imagination, the serpent as protector of the holy, the one who recognizes true spiritual authority and bends to serve it. As Buddhism traveled beyond India into Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Thailand, and Laos, the Naga traveled with it. In these regions, the serpent's role expanded even further. In Cambodia, the royal lineage claimed descent from the union of a human prince and a Naga princess, intertwining myth with kingship. In Laos and Thailand, Nagas are still revered as protectors of rivers, particularly the Mekong, where mysterious glowing orbs known as Naga fireballs are said to rise from the waters during certain festivals. In these cultures, the Naga is not just a myth, but a living presence, woven into both spiritual and national identity. Both Buddhism and Jainism reshape the Naga into a creature of moral instruction. The serpent's dangerous aspects, venom, wrath, power, are acknowledged, but the stories focus on its capacity to serve, protect, and honor the sacred. By bowing to the Buddha or shielding a Tirthankara, the Naga demonstrates the proper order of the universe. Even powerful beings must humble themselves before truth. In this way, the serpent becomes a mirror for human behavior. Just as the Naga must learn humility, so too must we. Taken together, the Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain perspectives on Nagas reveal the adaptability of myth. Far from being fixed, These serpent beings shift according to spiritual needs. In one tradition, they support the cosmos. In another, they guard enlightenment. In another, they symbolize humility. Yet across them all, the Naga remains consistent in its essence, ambiguous, powerful, and ever watchful at the threshold between the human and the divine. If the Hindu epics and Buddhist scriptures gave Nagas their cosmic stature, it is in the villages, temples, and rituals of South and Southeast Asia that these serpent beings became part of everyday life. Across the subcontinent and beyond, the Naga's image shifts, sometimes fierce, sometimes benevolent, always powerful, reflecting the unique geography and culture of each region. One of the most enduring traditions is Nag Panchami, a festival still celebrated across India today. On this day, serpents, whether living cobras brought by snake charmers or clay and metal idols, are worshipped with milk, flowers, and prayers. In villages, women mark snake burrows with turmeric and vermilion, offering milk in hopes of fertility, prosperity, and protection. The ritual embodies the ancient belief that Nagas control rain and water. To neglect or offend them might invite drought or disaster, while honoring them ensures abundance. The persistence of this festival into the modern age speaks to how deeply serpent reverence is woven into rural life. In Kerala and Karnataka, Nagas are especially revered in Sarpakavu, sacred groves dedicated to serpent deities. Families maintain these lush patches of forest, offering daily prayers and rituals. The groves are considered untouchable. To cut trees or disturb the serpents invites misfortune. At grand temples like the Padmanabhaswamy Temple in Thiruvananthapuram, depictions of Anantashesha dominate the sanctum, where Vishnu reclines upon the cosmic serpent. These traditions highlight the Naga not just as myth, but as guardian of ecology, a divine force reminding humans to respect the land and its waters. In northeast India, serpent worship blends with tribal traditions. Among the Naga tribes of Nagaland, though the name Naga has different origins, serpent imagery often appears in folklore and ritual. Local myths tell of serpent beings inhabiting rivers and lakes, sometimes marrying humans or punishing disrespect. The intertwining of tribal and pan-Indian serpent myths shows how flexible and resonant the figure of the Naga became, adapting to local landscapes while retaining its aura of mystery. As Indian culture spread through trade and Buddhism, the Naga journeyed into Southeast Asia, where it became central to national mythologies. In Cambodia, legend holds that the Khmer people are descended from the union of an Indian Brahmin prince and a Naga princess, daughter of a serpent king. This myth gave the Naga royal legitimacy, weaving it into the very identity of the nation. At Angkor Wat, 7-headed Nagas line temple causeways, their stone bodies forming bridges between the human and divine realms. For Cambodians, the Naga is not just mythic, it is ancestral. In Thailand and Laos, the Naga is venerated as guardian of rivers, especially the Mekong. Local legends describe serpent kings dwelling beneath its waters, emerging to protect or punish communities. During the annual Naga Fireball Festival in Laos, mysterious glowing orbs rise from the river's surface, said to be flames expelled by Nagas. Scientists debate natural explanations, but for locals, the phenomenon reaffirms the serpent's living presence. Shrines, statues, and murals throughout the region testify to the Naga's role as protector of both land and spirit. In Bali, the serpent dragon Anantaboga is part of Hindu cosmology, believed to sustain the earth itself. Here too, serpents dwell in temple carvings, winding along gates and altars. Across Southeast Asia, from Myanmar's temples to Indonesian rituals, the serpent adapts, but always retains its dual essence: guardian and threat, fertility and destruction. What unites these diverse traditions is the serpent's ability to take on local meaning while retaining its universal aura. In Kerala, it is ecological guardian. In Cambodia, royal ancestor. In Laos, river deity. In Bali, cosmic dragon. The Naga's form may change, single hood, 5 hoods, 7 hoods, even 9, but its role as threshold figure remains. It slithers at the boundaries, between water and land, human and divine, life and death. Unlike many mythic beings that fade into ancient memory, the Naga is still worshipped, feared, and celebrated today. Festivals, rituals, and folklore keep its presence alive in both rural villages and national myths. This continuity shows not only the resilience of the serpent archetype, but also its relevance to human life. A reminder that nature's powers are not ours to command, only to respect. Behind every story of the Naga, whether it coils around Vishnu in cosmic slumber, shelters the Buddha in the rain, or guards treasures beneath the earth, lies a deeper web of meanings. The serpent is never just a snake. It is a symbol, layered with significance, embodying the mysteries of nature, power, and transformation. To understand the Naga is to understand how humans have wrestled with the forces that sustain and endanger them for millennia. At its heart, the Naga is a water being. Dwelling in rivers, lakes, wells, and oceans, it represents the life-giving and life-taking qualities of water. For agrarian societies, rainfall and river cycles determined survival. Too little rain meant famine. Too much brought floods and ruin. Snakes, often found near water sources, became natural mediators of this power. Rituals like Nag Panchami, offering milk and prayers to serpents, symbolize a plea for balance, for the right measure of water to sustain crops and fertility. Thus, the Naga is not merely a mythic creature. It is an emblem of agricultural hope and fear. Another recurring theme is the Naga as keeper of hidden wealth. In Patala, their jeweled palaces gleam with gold, pearls, and gems. In folktales, Nagas hoard or guard treasures buried beneath rivers or mountains. On one level, this reflects the literal truth that rivers and earth conceal natural riches, minerals, pearls, fertile soil. On another, it suggests a spiritual truth. Wisdom and enlightenment are treasures hidden in the depths, accessible only to those who approach with courage and reverence. To face the Naga is to face the trials required to earn life's greatest rewards. The Naga's role as custodian of wisdom is clearest in Buddhist traditions, where serpent kings guard sacred texts and relics. Yet even in Hinduism, Shesha is portrayed as omniscient, holding the memory of the cosmos itself. The serpent's ability to shed its skin adds another layer, a metaphor for renewal, transformation, and the discarding of ignorance. To encounter the Naga is to be reminded that knowledge comes at a price. It requires change, vulnerability, and often pain. No less significant is the Naga's association with danger. Venomous snakes were a constant threat in India, their bite often fatal. Mythologizing serpents as Nagas elevated this fear into a divine dimension. A bite was not random misfortune, but a curse, a punishment, a reminder of mortality. In this way, Nagas became symbols of the fragility of life. Just as water both nourishes and destroys, serpents both guard and kill. The duality of their nature reflects the precarious balance humans live within every day. Serpents have long been associated with sexuality, their sinuous form linked to both desire and reproduction. In Indian art, Nagas and Naginis, female serpents, are often depicted as sensuous, half-human figures, marrying mortals or seducing kings. These unions, sometimes harmonious, sometimes disastrous, highlight the serpent as a symbol of untamed desire, fertility, and the mysterious bond between human and natural forces. The Naga embodies both creative passion and destructive obsession. In many Southeast Asian cultures, rulers claimed descent from Nagas to legitimize their power. To be linked to a serpent being was to embody both danger and majesty, commanding awe and obedience. The serpent's coiled body became a metaphor for potential energy. dormant yet deadly, peaceful yet capable of sudden violence. Authority, like the Naga, must be respected, for its wrath can be swift. Perhaps the most universal meaning of the Naga is that of the threshold guardian. Nagas dwell at borders, water and land, heaven and underworld, human and divine. They appear at temple gates, on bridge causeways, and in myths where mortals cross into forbidden realms. The serpent is the warning at the threshold. To pass, one must be prepared, respectful, and transformed. This archetypal role explains the Naga's enduring appeal. It is not just a creature of myth, but a symbol of the eternal challenge, how to cross the unknown and emerge changed. Ultimately, the Naga symbolizes ambiguity itself. Life, like the serpent, is slippery, elusive, never fully tamed. Its scales shimmer with blessings and curses alike. To worship the Naga is to acknowledge that we live not in a world of absolutes, but in one of balance, between water and drought, wisdom and ignorance, life and death. The serpent reminds us that every gift carries danger, and every danger, if faced with reverence, may hold a gift. If cosmic Nagas, like Shesha or Vasuki, loom across the heavens, it is the folktales, the stories whispered in villages, sung in epics, and carved into temple walls that bring these serpent beings closest to human life. Here, the Naga is not an abstract cosmic principle, but a character, shape-shifting, passionate, vengeful, and sometimes tragically human. These tales reveal how communities across India and beyond have used the serpent myth to explain love, loss, morality, and the mystery of nature itself. Perhaps the most common thread in Naga folktales is the serpent's ability to take on human form. Stories abound of Nagas, or Naginis, male and female serpents, who transform into strikingly beautiful men or women and marry mortals. In some versions, the marriage is harmonious, producing children who embody both human and serpent traits. In others, tragedy follows, often when the human discovers their spouse's serpentine nature. These stories reflect anxieties about hidden identities and forbidden unions, but they also celebrate the possibility of harmony between the human and the otherworldly. One of the most famous Naga love stories appears in the Mahabharata. The hero Arjuna, exiled from his kingdom, encounters Ulupi, a Naga princess who falls in love with him. She carries him to her underwater palace, where they marry and bear a son. Though Arjuna eventually leaves, Ulupi later returns in the epic to play a crucial role in reviving him after a deadly battle. Ulupi's story illustrates both the passion and loyalty of Naga figures, as well as their ability to alter the fate of human heroes. Just as often, Naga tales are stories of vengeance. When a serpent or its kin is harmed, Nagas unleash their wrath on entire communities. A common motif tells of a farmer or villager killing a snake, only to be cursed with infertility or misfortune. In some traditions, Nagas are believed to cause diseases such as skin ailments when disrespected. These stories served a practical purpose, instilling caution toward snakes, whose bites could indeed kill. But they also reinforced moral lessons about respect for animals, nature, and forces beyond human control. In many rural areas, Nagas are worshipped as protectors of wells, lakes, and fields. Folktales often tell of villages suffering drought until a neglected Naga shrine is restored, after which rains return. In other stories, a sacred grove is guarded by serpents who bless or curse depending on human behavior. Such tales reflect a worldview where survival depends on living in harmony with the environment. The Naga embodies this balance. Anger it, and nature turns hostile. Honor it, and nature provides. A particularly rich genre of folklore involves Nagas guarding buried treasures. Adventurers seeking gold or jewels must contend with serpents who test their worthiness. Sometimes the Naga yields the treasure if the seeker is pure of heart. Other times, greed leads to doom. These tales echo the archetype of the threshold guardian, the idea that true rewards are hidden behind trials and moral tests. They also reflect the serpent's liminal nature, both a source of wealth and a danger to the unworthy. In Cambodia and Thailand, Naga folktales merge with local culture. In one story, a Naga princess falls in love with a human prince, leading to the founding of dynasties. In Laos, stories tell of Nagas dwelling in the Mekong River, demanding respect from fishermen. In Bali, serpents appear as guardians of temples and as forces controlling volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. These variations show how adaptable the Naga is, always local, yet always carrying the essence of water, fertility, and danger. The moral undertones of Naga folktales are clear. Respect nature, honor promises, control desire, and do not let greed consume you. The serpent's duality, beautiful yet deadly, loving yet vengeful, mirrors human nature itself. Folktales make this cosmic duality intimate, bringing it into the lives of farmers, lovers, kings, and children gathered around a fire. What makes these folktales so enduring is their ability to shape communal values. By weaving the serpent into tales of love, curses, blessings, and treasure, communities transformed the natural fear of snakes into a framework of meaning. The Naga became more than a snake. It became a storyteller's tool, a symbol through which to teach survival, morality, and the fragile beauty of life. Though born in ancient scriptures and folklore, the Naga has not vanished into the shadows of myth. Even today, these serpent beings remain alive in rituals, festivals, art, and popular imagination. Their presence is felt not only in rural traditions, but also in urban temples, national myths, and even scientific debates. The Naga is proof that myth, when deeply rooted in culture, can slither across millennia and remain relevant. Across India, Nag Panchami continues as a major festival. In towns and villages, worshippers mark serpent burrows with turmeric, offer milk, and chant prayers for health, fertility, and rainfall. In urban centers, processions carry clay or metal serpents through streets, while temples dedicate entire rituals to snake deities. The endurance of this practice shows that Nagas are not relics of the past, but active spiritual figures, shaping the rhythm of community life, year after year. In Southeast Asia, too, serpent reverence thrives. In Laos, the annual Naga Fireball Festival draws thousands to the Mekong River, where glowing orbs rise mysteriously from the waters. Locals believe these are flames expelled by Nagas, while scientists debate natural causes like gas bubbles or bioluminescence. Regardless of explanation, the belief sustains the ritual, reinforcing the Naga's living presence. In Cambodia, the Naga is a national symbol, tied to the myth of the Khmer people's origin. Government buildings, money, and monuments feature the seven-headed serpent, linking modern identity with ancient myth. In Thailand, Nagas adorn temples and royal architecture, representing protection and legitimacy. These cultural continuities show how deeply entwined the serpent is with political and social life. The Naga is not just a mythic figure, but an emblem of nationhood. In modern art, Nagas continue to inspire. Sculptors carve them into temple gates, painters depict them coiled in cosmic scenes, and filmmakers use them as symbols of mystery and power. Even digital art and fantasy novels draw from serpent mythology, reimagining the Naga for new audiences. Their form, half human, half serpent, multi-hooded, remains one of the most visually striking archetypes in the world's mythic bestiary. Interestingly, serpent myths also intersect with science. Anthropologists study Naga worship as an example of ecological reverence, rituals that indirectly preserve biodiversity by protecting snake habitats. Biologists note that traditional taboos against killing snakes have likely reduced conflicts between humans and wildlife in certain areas. Even the glowing orbs of the Mekong, whether myth or methane, spark dialogue between folklore and modern investigation. The Naga bridges not only myth and religion, but myth and science. Beyond festivals and art, the Naga endures as metaphor. In literature, it appears as a symbol of hidden wisdom or suppressed desire. In psychology, the serpent often represents the unconscious, shedding skin as the mind sheds ignorance. For environmental movements, the Naga's association with water and fertility resonates as a reminder of the need to respect rivers and ecosystems. The serpent, once feared for its bite, now reminds us of our fragile relationship with nature. Even in modern popular culture, serpent beings echo the Naga's influence. Fantasy games, films, and novels frequently feature serpent-human hybrids, echoing ancient archetypes. In South Asian cinema and television, Nagan characters, female serpent shapeshifters, remain a popular trope, often blending horror, romance, and revenge. These stories, though dramatized for entertainment, are direct descendants of the folktales that once cautioned farmers and enthralled storytellers. The Naga's modern relevance lies in its flexibility. It can be a sacred guardian, a national emblem, a scientific puzzle, or a pop culture character. It lives in both temples and Netflix series, in both rituals and research. At its core, the Naga endures because it reflects truths that remain unchanged. Water sustains us, nature humbles us, power tempts us, and transformation defines us. The serpent embodies these eternal tensions, making it as meaningful today as it was thousands of years ago. From the cosmic coils of Shesha holding up the universe, to Ulupi's love story with Arjuna, to glowing fireballs rising from the Mekong River, the Naga has slithered across scriptures, folklore, and living tradition for thousands of years. Few beings embody so many contradictions with such grace. The serpent is at once sacred and feared, nurturing and venomous, a guardian of wisdom and a harbinger of death. To understand the Naga is to embrace ambiguity itself, the recognition that life is always balanced on the edge between blessing and curse. Throughout our journey, one theme has emerged again and again: duality. Water sustains crops, yet floods fields. Desire unites lovers, yet destroys kingdoms. Power protects, yet corrupts. The Naga embodies this eternal paradox, reminding us that no force in life is wholly good or wholly evil. Instead, power must be approached with reverence, wisdom, and humility. Just as the farmer honors the serpent at Nag Panchami, we too are called to respect the forces beyond our control. The Naga also endures as a threshold figure. Whether carved into temple gateways in Cambodia or worshipped at wells in South India, serpents always appear at the borderlands, between land and water, human and divine, life and death. To encounter a Naga in myth is to face a test. Are you ready to step across the boundary? Have you honored the forces that govern the unknown? The serpent, with its coiled body and unblinking eyes, waits at the threshold as both protector and challenger. What makes the Naga extraordinary is not only its ancient depth, but its modern vitality. While other mythic beings fade into museums and dusty texts, Nagas remain alive in ritual, art, and national identity. They are not frozen relics, but breathing symbols. Whether as guardians of ecology, emblems of culture, or characters in television dramas, they continue to adapt. This resilience speaks to the human need for stories that make sense of the forces that shape our lives. Forces as unpredictable and powerful as the serpent itself. The serpent survives because it mirrors us. Like the Naga, humans straddle thresholds between ignorance and knowledge, mortality and immortality, chaos and order. We are both creators and destroyers, protectors and plunderers. The Naga does not resolve these contradictions. It reveals them, coils around them, and forces us to look. That is why, whether in a temple grove, a village folktale, or a Netflix drama, the serpent still commands awe. As we close this exploration, imagine standing at the edge of a river at dusk. The air is heavy, the water still. Somewhere beneath the surface, unseen, coils a being older than memory. Is it a guardian waiting to bless? Or a predator ready to strike? The truth is both. And in that ambiguity lies the beauty of the Naga myth. A reminder that life itself is a mystery, not to be solved, but to be respected. So the next time you see a serpent carved into a temple wall, or hear a folktale of a Naga princess, pause and listen. Beneath the scales and stories, you may just hear the echo of humanity's oldest lesson, that to survive, we must learn to live with power, fear, love, and wonder all at once.